Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session, and today it is my pleasure to welcome here our wonderful coach Cristian. So Cristian, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, Veronica. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure to have you here, and I'm doing fine, a little bit of a headache, and these are just normal things, right? So yeah, I think we can start, and I have prepared a few questions that I have found under some of the videos which we are posting quite often on the Sleep Coach School YouTube channel. And one of the questions that I found interesting to answer was, what would you say about sunrise anxiety, where it's starting to get light and you hear the birds chirping and haven't slept yet? So, what are your thoughts, Christian? Have you ever experienced this?
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, yeah, a good question. I have definitely. I've had moments like this, and it's interesting when we deal with insomnia. We put certain questions in a certain category, and I think when we put it in a category, it can become a little bit more difficult to process, meaning we overthink it, right?
Mhm.
So, oh, can you keep that question up? I have a short-term memory. So no. The thing, I know I'm the only one that needs this. So thanks. But so let's go back and break down the questions. What would you say about sunrise anxiety? Okay, well, why is it happening? Where it starts to get light and your heart, and you hear the birds chirping and haven't slept yet. Okay, so what if I said, something, I only have 10 hours or 5 hours for me to accomplish something, and there's a timer on the clock, and now there's only half an hour and I haven't been able to get anything completed. I have a test coming up tomorrow and the clock is running out. What would you call that? Anxiety. We'd be anxious. So let's just remove this insomnia part of it and just go, if I only had X amount of hours to accomplish something and I wasn't able to accomplish something, especially like sleep, which is something we can't even control, why would we feel anxious? I think the answer is in the question itself. Then this, as the sun is rising, the birds are chirping, that means our clock, the amount of time that we have left that we scheduled for sleep, is running out. So we've built all this pressure throughout the night and we're overthinking about what's going to happen. And so for sure, I would be anxious. All of us, whenever we feel like I don't know about you, Veronica, I wasn't necessarily the best student in college. And so as I, maybe waited the last minute to study something, the anxiety would come up, but I never wondered why I was anxious. It's like, I'm running out of time. So the feeling of I'm running out of time would make sense for anybody to feel anxious. And so I would say, even in my experiences, when I wasn't sleeping, there was some kind of a peace and comfort in the darkness because it was still dark. But as things started to change, the light started to come out, it was like, oh no, I haven't slept at all. The clock is ticking. What do I do? Right. And we start trying to figure out, should I start my day or should I try a little bit harder to try and get some sleep? So I think it's very understandable that you would feel anxiety. What do you think, Veronica?
Mm. Yeah, I actually with this I have two associations
Mm.
with the birds chirping in the early morning. And the first one comes to my teenage years when I was going to a disco. And I came back home and I hear, oh, damn, the birds are chirping. It's so late. And I have to get as much sleep as possible until I can start the day again, right? And the other association is, of course, with the insomnia. And basically, when I like what you said, like when it's dark in the middle of the night, there is some kind of like peace and comfort because you still have some time to rest, to maybe manage to fall asleep. But once you can see the light through the curtains and you hear the birds chirping, for me, it represented I failed. I failed at sleeping. So, of course, a huge wave of anxiety washed all over me, a wave of self criticism. Oh my goodness, how could I fail again? And even if these were all nighters, one after another, it's like I failed, I failed, I failed. And it was such a heavy load to carry that, of course, this anxiety would show up. So, really understanding what is going on, why we have this anxiety, why we shouldn't feel that we have failed, knowing that sleep is a passive process. This is incredibly helpful and helps to lift the pressure. Sometimes we can have an all nighter, we can do our best throughout the night, but it would turn out to be an all nighter, no matter what. And we don't deserve the self criticism, we deserve the self kindness.
Right. That's
So,
beautiful. That's great, Veronica. Yeah.
right.
You definitely had a way more of a social life than I did back in the day.
Yeah, not all the time, not all the weekends, but sometimes. It was fun.
No, that's great. That's awesome.
Cool. Right, there are quite a few questions coming in. So let's start with them. We have a question from Carmen Rogers. So, hi, Carmen. I recently cut my work week back to 2 days a week because of my insomnia. I felt like it took a lot of pressure off of me, and I felt like I just couldn't keep up hmm, with exhaustion. I didn't want to have to call out sick so felt it was best for all of us. Now I'm questioning my decision, feeling like I'm allowing fear to dictate my life. Do you have any thoughts?
I
So,
do.
go ahead.
Do. This is a really good question. So can we go back to the first part of it? Because there's a few things to go over. Is that okay, Veronica?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Originally got my work week to 2 days. Whenever this starts for us, it's very heavy. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of unsettled unknowns. And so we don't know what to do. So if we were to get sick, if we were to break our leg or something, happen like that, our go-to is always, let's take a pause. Let's protect ourselves, right? Let's stay home. Let's recover. Once we recover, we can start kind of going about our day and moving forward. With insomnia, it can be, again, I love the word from Daniel, tricky. It can be very tricky because if we choose to take time off, for example, what can happen oftentimes is the more downtime that we have, the more we're with our thoughts. And the more we are with our thoughts, the more we start thinking about things that give us fear and anxiety, which is insomnia. So now we start oftentimes filling a lot of our time with these thoughts of insomnia, and that can feel overwhelming. Now, at the same time, this can also be a sign of you being kind with yourself, allowing yourself some space, allowing yourself some time to kind of reset or reframe things. So there isn't really a set pattern to go through or to follow. For me, what I did was I kept working. My wife and I own a business, and it really required for the both of us to keep working. And so there were some definite downsides to it where I felt really tired and I felt a lot of pressure to go to work. But I also find myself while I was working, I wasn't paying attention or thinking about sleep or not sleeping as much. So that can be very helpful. In this case, you mentioned I felt like it took a lot of pressure off. Well, wonderful, right? But things don't always stay the same. So we can reassess as time goes by. So maybe at first you needed to take some time and it felt like it relieved some pressure. Wonderful. Let's go to the second part of the question, Veronica. I didn't want to call in sick, so I felt it was best. Okay. Now I'm questioning my decision. So now let's say you started feeling like you could probably do more. Well, we didn't make a mistake. We're just, this is new information that's happening. We're resetting things and going, okay, now maybe we would feel more comfortable to be able to go back to work. What I would say is in this process, whatever's coming your way is information. We choose to judge what we do, our decisions. And if we feel like we've made a mistake, we've done something wrong, now we start putting guilt and pressure on ourselves, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to put less pressure on yourselves. And so feel like I'm allowing fear to dictate my life. Okay, good information, insight. So if we feel like fear is now dictating your life, what can we do about it? What would be something that would be helpful? Now, oftentimes people, when they feel like they've lost something, or maybe they need to catch up, they put pressure on themselves to not only go back to work, but to accomplish even more, to somehow catch up or make up for the time they lost. That's another sign of pressure too. So how can we go about this in a more neutral state? So let's say, I took some time off of work. Now I feel like I'm able to do it. Great. I'm in a better position than I was before. Improvement, right? So now we start seeing things with actually some optimism as opposed to criticism. And so maybe it was like, maybe I'll start going back to work. Maybe 3 or 4 days a week might be good. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It really depends on what feels best for you. But this questioning the decision, it can be taken as information, interesting, or it can be taken as something where we start putting pressure or making ourselves guilty for making a mistake. So in my journey, one of the things that I felt that I dealt with a lot was a lot of criticism on whatever choice I made. And it never seemed like it was the right choice. So I was always very unsettled about what was best to do. So then I would start reaching out for others and go, what did you do? And then I instead of trying to check in with myself. So what I would say, Carmen, is that right now you seem to be doing a little bit better. You got some more insight, you have some experience. And so see how maybe working a little bit longer or maybe increasing your schedule, how would that feel? And then see what feels best for you. And then that is the best decision for you. But always making sure that we're putting less pressure on ourselves, not more pressure on ourselves. Veronika, what do you think?
Absolutely. You just answered really wonderfully, Christian. Thank you so much for that. And I'll just add my 2 cents. Like, if you feel really bad, Carmen, it's absolutely normal to take some time off. I did it also because I was at a horrible place at that time. And it was several weeks that I took off from work because I simply wasn't able to work. And for me, the breaking point was like one day I was going back from work and I basically was so exhausted, so foggy that I couldn't hold straight the steering wheel and on the road. And this was so scary for me. So in that moment I said, I can't do it anymore. So, and I would say with this time off, do the best what you can do. Don't use it for self-criticism. Don't use it for doubting your judgment. Don't use it to pity yourself. Go on holiday. uh, Travel. Go for a trip. Start yoga class. To take it to your favor. People who don't suffer from insomnia, they do take time off, and they do not criticize themselves for it. So use it to your best advantage. And absolutely, when you feel the time is right, you can again start working more. So this is what I would add. Cool. So I think we can go to another question. And we have a question from Barati. What do I do if I get anxious about exactly when, if I would fall asleep? My hyperarousal is due to constantly being aware of checking whether I'm falling asleep or not. Monitoring. So, Christian, what would you share about monitoring?
So again, so many of these things we've talked about this before, how we, all of us as individuals, are quite unique, and how
Mhm.
insomnia is absolutely the same for everybody. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody goes through this. The little details of the story is going to vary a little bit from time to time, or when the patterns come up are going to vary. But all of us are going to get to a point where we're monitoring our sleep, and it makes perfect sense, right? Because it's something that we desire so desperately. And so when it starts, and oftentimes what I felt, and when I hear a lot of people say as well, is I was falling asleep and my brain would go, oh, I think it's happening, or we're falling asleep now. We notice, we're monitoring. So, and yeah, definitely hyperarousal, definitely understandable. We're checking in how this is going on. More important let's think about the things, right? So if we put two categories, one category is let's list all the things that we have no control of, can't do anything about, and then make a different column with a list of all the things that we can control, the things that we can do something about. So everything that we have no control of, the more we try and manipulate or change that, we become very fearful or anxious because we feel out of control. The more out of control we feel, the more vulnerable, the more of a defensive position we put ourselves in. And so that's obviously not going to help the situation. But what if we put ourselves in things that we can control? You know what I can't control? I can lay down, I can rest. What I can also control is how I respond to things, right? I think probably the last week or so, I've been going through some of the most ridiculous dreams, including this morning, where I wake up and it makes no sense. Now, if I were to read into what these dreams are and start overthinking it, now my attention will start going to it, and maybe my brain will go, "Oh no, maybe we shouldn't dream about these things. Maybe there's some hidden messages in the dreams." Right? We start overthinking it. So what I would say in this case, you getting anxious, it's understandable. It makes perfect sense, right? Because we've been dealing with something that's very stressful, that's very difficult. So what if we just noticed it and just go, yeah, of course I'm getting anxious. It's very difficult, but we're safe. There's nothing we need to do, nothing we need to change here. And just allow it to just be. Just allow things, give yourself the space. That's my thoughts, Veronika. Any thoughts?
Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for sharing, Christian. And I would say basically that when you can be of checking whether I'm falling asleep, it's very normal that we are monitoring, because this is something, the moment of falling asleep is the moment we've been waiting for so long. We feel like when I fall asleep, I'll be free finally. I will achieve everything, all the efforts that I've been putting into these moments, they will just finally I will have this result of sleep. But the trick is, sleep happens when we are not trying to achieve it, when we are not trying to chase it. So paradoxically, when you choose not trying to fall asleep, when you choose befriending wakefulness, when you allow just resting, when you allow yourself not to sleep, then this is when even the monitoring just goes down. When you basically befriend wakefulness in a way that feels nice to you, because when we have this result of sleep in mind all the time, it's really hard. I remember myself, I could spend 12 hours a night in bed, and I had in mind, please, I want to fall asleep. What if the next moment would be the one I would fall asleep? I was afraid to get up from bed, because what if I would miss the moment I would fall asleep? And of course, I didn't fall asleep because I was waiting for it. So, but the moments I just kind of like gave up, like, okay, this makes no sense. I better just sit by the window and look on the street, or I would just have a glass of water in the kitchen, or I would decide anything. It was kind of like I would give up on sleep. And when I returned to bed, magical moment happened. I fall asleep and I didn't know how, right? Because for a moment, I just forgot about sleep. And this was really, really nice. I just opened this I allowed basically this kind of like, I don't know how to call it, like
An
I,
opportunity?
yes, exactly, opportunity. I gave opportunity to sleep to sneak in, right? Because like somebody said, sleep is like our shy friend. If we are going to chase it, he's going to run away, right?
Right.
So uh, try not to chase sleep. I know it's really hard, but if you but acceptance is a huge part of insomnia recovery, and acceptance is about knowing when you are at. Okay, if right now in the moment I'm not sleeping, I feel anxious, accept it. I know it's not uncomfortable, it's not nice, but I'm here with this. And when you allow this to happen, when you are not trying to push it away, not trying to avoid it, you are sending the messages to your brain like, hey, this is safe. And the moment your brain feels safe, it will turn off all the alarms and allows you to sleep, allows the sleep drive to take over. So,
That's great.
yeah, I hope we have answered your questions, Parati. Thank you so much for posting it. And I think we can move on to another question. And we have a question from Lachimo Racha. I don't know, probably I mispronounced it.
I'm not reading the names.
I've been noticing a strange thing. I've been practicing the timeless sleep window, and when I get in bed, I don't feel anxious, and eventually I get sleepy, but I never actually sleep. I just toss and turn throughout the night, even though I don't feel stressed. What could be happening? So, Christian.
Can you go back to okay? Saying something since like window when I go to bed, I don't feel okay. So, when our insomnia started, at least again, and going back to in my experience, we're filled with fear and anxiety. As time goes by and we start learning that this can't hurt us, this is normal. We start going through the program. That fear does start to come down, and that anxiety starts to come down, and so it's interesting because like, well, I don't feel fear, I don't feel anxiety, so what's happening now? But two things here. One is when we get to this more kind of calm state, we can also be filled with a bit more of a curiosity, more of wonderment, more of bewilderment. Okay, now that I feel less anxiety, what's happening, what's going on? We're still monitoring, we're still checking to see what's happening, what's going on. When if you think about any time prior to insomnia, you could be at an event. I remember this is like years ago, it was the craziest thing. We flew in to, I think it was Utah. Anyways, I'm from Texas, so we flew into Utah to watch a UFC fight. And any type of event or venue is going to be loud, right? Lights, there's music, there's noise going on. I remember sitting there and falling asleep. I just go, think about the most obnoxious place to sleep is during an event when people are yelling and people are literally fighting on stage, right? And so then now we think, okay, what would be the perfect setting for sleep? Well, it's a calm, peaceful, relaxing environment. Why am I wide awake? Well, I don't think it has anything to do with external. I think it's more with the internal. And so it looks like that's wonderful. I love that you're practicing the timeless sleep window because it's allowing you to monitor less what's going on outwardly. Now we start looking into maybe some of the things that are going on inwardly. I might still be curious. I might still be anxious. I might not anxious. I might still be, in this bewilderment and wondering what's going on or happening. Well, when we're in this state, it's going to be difficult for us to be able to fall asleep. So I would consider, what is the second part of the question? Fall asleep. I toss and turn throughout the night, even though I don't feel just. So what if middle of the night you start tossing and turning? What if we pause and just go, okay, well, I'm awake. What can I do right now that would be more pleasant? What can I do right now to make it more enjoyable? And maybe just laying there and resting is exactly what you want to do. The other thing I would say is there's been times when during those phases when I would fall asleep and I would wake up, but I wasn't sure if I woke up because in my dream, all I was doing is laying there trying to sleep. So I don't know, right? So we don't have the time. We don't have the time to tell us exactly what's going on. And I'm just trying to answer based on the question, but maybe we're getting some sleep. And if we're not getting any sleep, maybe the fact that we're noticing less stress, less anxiety, there's definitely improvement there. But what if we got to this space where we were still more neutral instead of still being curious or in this, bewildered or one state? We just went to, I don't know, what would feel best for us to do just to pass the time. Veronika, your thoughts?
Right. So thank you so much for answering this question, Christian. And I like how Daniel calls it. If Russia, if you would read the Set It and Forget It book, there is written like this is called like Super Ninja Hyperarousal. It's very quiet, and I don't know your history of insomnia, but it's very common. Like at the beginning of insomnia, people are very. They have very high anxiety. They have many physical symptoms, palpitations, racing heart, and so many things, which is obvious why they wouldn't sleep. But as they learn, as they educate themselves, the hyperarousal goes down. But there is still enough hyperarousal that prevents them from sleeping. So if you are at this stage, for many people, this stage is very disappointing. They feel like I understand everything. I'm not trying to sleep actively. I am very peaceful and calm, but I still don't fall asleep. What is happening? And this leads us to what you mentioned about bewilderment, curiosity, and so on and so on. And of course, it's nicer place than being completely in a panicky state, but it's not still not pleasant because the excuse me, because the only thing we want to sleep in the middle of the night, right? But see for yourself, what can you do? You can choose to befriend wakefulness in some more active way. If you don't like to do anything in more active way, I like to explain that just resting with your eyes closed peacefully opens the gate to hypersleep, and hypersleep opens the gate to the deep sleep. So just allowing any stage to be okay and not criticizing it gives us the chance to experience other stages of sleep. So, but I also get what I think you mean, Russia, which is I started to toss and turn. At some point, like many times, I simply got bored and just tossing and turning. It was so annoying, and I really didn't like this state. Like I'm so aware of everything, and I don't want to do anything. I'm bored, and I still tossing and turning, and I know simply that sleep is not coming anytime soon. So at one hand, I didn't want to get up from bed, but on the other hand, I found retrospectively that it was always nice to get up from bed and find something new for myself, to find something that would be nice. Like sometimes I would just go out to my garden, or I would just watch some funny show because it helps the time to pass a little bit. It helps, like I mentioned already, send the messages of safety to our brain, of the messages of even being awake at night is nice. It could be nice and it's safe. So cool.
That's great.
I think we have answered the question. And we have a thank you note from Carmen. So thank you so much. That was helpful. So I'm really glad it resonates. And also from Bharati A. Thank you so much for answering my question. It makes perfect sense. I'm glad. Thank you for posting.
2 for 2.
Cool. And we have a question from Kate Boss. Hey, I sleep perfectly fine and almost lost all my fear, but the only thing that seems to remain is that I have trouble sleeping when I have to stand up early the next day. Any tips? It also helps to know that you can't notice you falling asleep, because if you do, you will be absent. I think that's an answer to one of the questions. You won't be there anymore to notice once you're asleep, right? So thank you for sharing, Skateballs. And now to your question. Right. So how about getting up early next day? What are your thoughts, Christian?
All right. Skate Bros? That's great. That's great. So again, anytime we adjust or tweak our schedules a little bit, we notice it, we start putting a little bit of pressure on ourselves, right? So let's say for me, my alarm goes off every day at 7 o'clock. If my alarm had to go off at 5 o'clock, there'd be even like a slight notice of a thought or maybe a feeling of, oh, I have less time to get this sleep that I need. So it just seems like it's just a little pressure that you're feeling. So what I would say is so much of this program deals with exposure, gently exposing ourselves to things. So let's say if you only have to wake up early once every 6 months, it would make sense that when this happens, you'd feel a little bit anxious. But imagine if you had to do that every week for once a week. What would happen with that time? You'd start noticing that you could probably still fall asleep. And even if you didn't sleep as well as you did other days, that you'd still be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to be able to go back to sleep the next day. So it's no big deal. So the tips would be is whenever this happens, recognize, acknowledge that any changes to the schedule can be a little bit concerning, can cause or give us a little bit of anxiety, a fear of what's going to happen, but we know what's going to happen. Whatever happens, we're still going to be able to accomplish the things that we need to. We're still going to be able to go to work or do whatever, and we'll be able to go back to sleep again because we've been doing it for so long. So just know that this is completely normal, number one. And number two, anytime you have these experiences where you have to get up early, that after a while, the brain is going to realize that there really isn't any kind of a threat or any danger. So not much to do. Just notice the, no, it's fine.
I'm too fast.
Notice that, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm just in the end.
The fact that you're sleeping great, wonderful, just no big deal when you have to get up a little bit early in the morning, since you already know that you'll be able to go back to sleep. So give yourself some space and time, natural, completely normal response or reaction that you're having.
Yeah,
Veronika.
absolutely. You answered it really nicely. And I'm just looking at questions. We can't answer them all today, but let's look at the last one. We have a question from Carrie B. I often awake hour after I go to sleep. I don't feel anxious, but cannot fall back asleep. Any advice on how to deal with this? I can just answer. This is basically what we call sleep maintenance insomnia. We have the sleep onset insomnia, where people have problem to fall asleep, and then we have sleep maintenance insomnia, when they fall asleep pretty easily, but they wake up like after 1 hour or several times a night, or after a specific at some point at night, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever. And how to deal with this, it's all our teachings what are about to understand what is insomnia, how the sleep works, how it functions, that it is a passive process, and basically it's about befriending wakefulness. So when you find yourself awake in the middle of the night, you can, first of all, don't look at the clock. You can set yourself a time of sleep window, because checking the time is very counterproductive. The more we check the time, the more anxious we become. And so when we can't sleep in the middle of the night, we can befriend wakefulness. Either, like I mentioned, you can just rest, you can enjoy the bed, you can do a little mindfulness practice, like to feel how enjoyable to be is your warm bed, or you can visualize something, or just anything that makes you feel nice. And also when you befriend wakefulness, this is about being okay with when you can't sleep. So when you can't sleep, and you accept it, you send the messages of safety back to your brain. I know I repeated this often, but this is also important, right? That showing our brain that I'm safe, I'm okay, even if I'm awake at night. Because if you wake up in the middle of the night or after this 1 hour, and you go, oh my goodness, I'm awake. Why am I awake? This is wrong. This is not supposed to be happening. This is not a message of safety. This is telling your brain, like, this is wrong and you need to raise the monitoring. What does it mean to raise the monitoring? It means more hyperarousal. So the awakenings will happen more and more often. But if you just change the narrative and become more neutral, like Coach Richard says, like from going from oh no to oh well, and you just shrug your shoulders, like, oh, I'm awake, so what can I do? I can control it. I don't awake, or I can control to fall asleep again, right? But when you learn to be okay with this wakefulness, then your brain will understand this. It will understand this message, and eventually it will let you to sleep. So I hope I have answered this question. And just very quickly, I also saw this note. Thank you. That is helpful. Separate question. I notice I sleep better next to my boyfriend. Why could this be? I would say because you feel safe, right? And when you feel safe, then your brain doesn't have has any reason to raise the monitoring. For example, I was so used to sleep next to my baby that when I tried to teach my baby to sleep in a separate room, I didn't sleep that night because I was like, what is happening? He's not next to me, so what's wrong? And so, yeah, he's still sleeping next to me. He's 5 years old, but he's my safety place. But it's very normal. And basically, when you just want to change this, you need to expect some bumpiness. When you will not sleep next to your boyfriend, you will you'll probably not sleep because your brain will not feel safe. But eventually, uh, when you allow this bumpiness, when you allow these feelings, these messages or signals that your brain is telling you, like, hey, this is not safe. Your brain is waiting for the answer. Hey, it is safe. It's okay, even if I am awake. So when you allow it, when you teach your brain this is okay, you will be able also to sleep also on your own again. Anything to add, Christian?
No, that's great. I mean, it just gives you insight of, now, like you mentioned, now that I'm sleeping with somebody, my boyfriend, baby, whatever it is, you know, you clearly are capable of sleeping on your own. It's so much about mental, how we adjust to it mentally. And what we're looking for is what? Feeling safe. How can we feel safe? So baby, boyfriend, whatever, puppy dogs, it doesn't matter what it is, whatever can help you feel safe will help you to get that,
Yeah.
to have more restful sleep.
Okay, cool. I think we are done for today. Thank you so much, Christian, for coming here today, for answering these questions. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I'm going to be back with the next Q&A next week. And yeah, thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. See ya.